A really popular niche on sites like Displate, Redbubble, Merch by Amazon is fantasy. I'm going to go in here on Displate to explore collections, and then I'm going to go here to fantasy. We can see here there's all sorts of trending products. I'm going to show you in this video how you can make a fantasy poster using Kittl. I've got 5 tips for you, and I'm going to create 5 different posters, and people love a good fantasy poster. So let's jump in. All right, as we jump in, I'm going to go up here to New Project. I'm going to click on a Displate size. So I'm going to pick my width is going to be 2900. My height is going to be 4060. I'm going to leave the pixel size at 72. I'm going to change that when I download it to 300. I'm going to click Create. So here's my template now. Tip number 1 is to select your base image. So I'm going to go here to Elements, and I'm going to type in a couple search terms. So this is where sometimes the wheels fall off if you're not super creative. You're like, well, what do I actually search for? So I'm going to type in the word warrior, and I'm going to see I get back a whole bunch of different warriors. So you can use these designs. You can also type in the word death. That gets you back a bunch of skulls, Grim Reaper stuff. You could also type in sword. That gets you back a bunch of fantasy items as well, some really cool looking swords. You can also just be really blunt and go, hey, fantasy. So that's going to give you some mythical creatures, some really scary monsters. And then the last one I'm going to type in here is dragon. So you can see here now there's some dragon designs as well. So I want to point out there's 2 different types of illustrations here on Kittl. I'm going to click this dragon image, and then I'm also going to click on this dragon here. There are 2 different types. The one that I've got highlighted right now is a vector. And you can see when I click on it, the object color over here, I've got 2 options. So if I wanted to change the object color, I simply click. I can then change it. I could make it red, for example. I could make it black. I could do whatever I want with it. The watercolor image does not have the option to change it because it's not a vector. So it's like a true illustration. What you can do is you can change the brightness, and you can change the contrast, and you can change the saturation. So you can monkey with the designs a little bit, and you can also just click the reset button and that'll bring it back to baseline as well. So you have to really look at the designs and decide which base image do I want to use. Do I want something that looks very realistic, but I can't modify it as much? Or do I want something that's a bit more like a logo, and in that case, you would make a different style based on your choice? Okay, so I'm going to go here with the watercolor one. So knowing that I can't change it, what I'm going to do instead is just up the saturation to max. I'm going to change my background now to black. I'm going to add in another shape here in the background. So I'm going to click on Elements. I'm going to go to Shapes, Basic Shapes. I've got a circle here now behind me. I'm going to make the circle really big, like that. And I'm going to make it a very light color. And then I'm going to place it in the background. I'm going to go to back. You could also copy the circle as well. So now I've got 2 circles, and you could actually make it a different color. So you can make it red, for example, and you could have it be like slightly smaller. So you could have like a kind of an offset as well. I've actually got it bleeding off the page on purpose just because I want to have it not just centered. So that's an option. When I go to download, I click download, and then I can just change the DPI now to 300, optimize quality, save it as a JPEG. And just like that, I've got a very simple fantasy design because there was already predefined elements inside of Kittl. So tip number 2 is all about the background. So here I've just got a base design of a skull, and I've got a white background. This is a pretty boring design. So I'm going to try to make the background a bit more punchy. So what I can do is I can go over here to Elements, and I can type in under Elements, background. And when that happens, I'm going to get back some really funky looking backgrounds here. So what you could do is you could pick something and just literally use it as is. So that's option number 1. So here, for example, I'm going to have just a background design like this. I'll just place it to back, and then here I've got the skull. And then you could make something like a skull island, something like a logo. This is okay, but because you can't really change this, what I would prefer that you do is you pick something a little more abstract. You can type in background, but you can click on abstract, and then you can see there's all sorts of really cool things that you can use in the background. So for example, wavy grid is a great example. So I'm going to pick this thing, for example, and what I'm going to do is change my background to black or near black. I'm going to click on my design here and make it really bright green, make it really big. So just like that instantly, and now I'm going to put this to the forward. Just like that instantly now, I've made a design way more interesting. And because this skull, I can actually change the colors on it, I'm going to change it to make it really bright. So I'm going to change it to say bright pink. Going to change it to bright blue. Going to change this to bright yellow. And just in a matter of seconds, I've made a really good neon design that now, this will look great in a gaming room, for example. And I only used 2 elements, but it's all about the color and it's all about the background. I'm actually going to make the background now pure black. You can also make it red. You can make it all sorts of things. So you can scale up these designs very easily. The background and abstract designs can be a really easy tool to make your design instantly professional looking. Okay, so tip number 3 is all about background images. So here I've got a cute little ninja guy, and I want to put some background in, and I want to make it look not just like a regular background. So I'm going to show you what a regular background looks like. I'm going to type in tree, and I'm going to see, like, for example, some trees come up. This is where the technical piece meets the creative piece. I'll pick this pine tree. And you might think, okay, well, I'll put a pine tree in the background. Well, okay, so now he's standing here. He's got a pine tree. It's like, is that really what I want? And it's like, it's hard to build something from nothing. So what I'd recommend you do is make the tree black, and then just simply hold down the Alt key, and you can just move it, and you can make the design, you can copy it instantly, just like that. So I'm putting a bunch of trees on top of each other, and I'm making it look right off the page. I'm bleeding it. I've got a ninja that's sitting in front of a bunch of trees. The other thing you could do as well is you could just take him right off the page. You can highlight everything, Control A, and then click on the ninja to unclick them. And now you've got all of these trees at once. Right click and you can group. So it says un or group. I'm going to group them. Now it's as if it's one item. And now I could change this. I could make it green, for example, and now I can make the ninja black and it won't be sitting in the same color. So I would recommend you start with the backgrounds first. I'm just going to delete out little ninja guy here. So here's a bunch of trees. You can stick them up here. Same thing with mountains. I'm going to type in mountains. And you can see here there's a whole bunch of mountains that come back and they're similar in style. So I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to click on this one. So now I've got 3 mountains. So I'm going to move him here, and him here. Now I'll make this one big, I'll make this one big, and I'll make this one big. I'm going to highlight all 3 by holding down the Shift key, right click, group. So now it's all one, and I'm going to go right click, move to back. So now I've got mountains and I've got trees, and then now I can type in ninja, for example, and I can pick my ninja design and I can have him sitting in the front. I do like a black background typically, or a different colored background, so I'm just going to make this a gray. So there's an example where very quickly I'm able to make individual trees and individual mountains become a good looking background. One more thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go in to elements and I'm going to type in under shapes. I'm going to click on the actual circle and I'm just going to make this look like a sun. So I'm going to make this like orange, for example, just like that. I'll put him here at the top and then I will say go to back. So now I've actually got a sun in the background as well. So just like that, I've got an image within seconds that's a professional looking fantasy poster. Okay, so tip number 4 is about text. And what I'd recommend with text is don't make it too complicated. So I want to keep little kitty here, but I'm actually going to remove out everything else. I'm going to remove out the mountains, the sun, and I'm going to remove out the trees. So now I've got this guy sitting right in the middle, and I'm going to make him nice and big, just like that. And I'm going to put text down at the bottom. So I'm going to go over here to the left-hand side. I'm going to click on the text button, and I'm going to click headline. It's going to give me a little tiny headline there right in the middle. I'm just going to move him down, make him a bit bigger. And now I'm going to type in my phrase that I want. And this would be good for, like, say, a game room. So here I've got the word attack. That's pretty good. However, if you're looking for the next step, you may want to make your font better. So what I would recommend is a couple things. First, go over to the text over on the right. So I'm clicking the text, my little text button pops up, and I'm going to take a look. Are there better fonts that I can use? The difference between a really professional looking design and an average design is often the font. So I'm going to take my time. I'm going to scroll on through. I'm going to see if I can find a really good font to use for this design. And here I'm going to select Neon Sans, and then I'm going to go, Now, thinking through a design perspective, is there a way that I could make this better? There is. I can click on the text color, and I can go click eyedropper, and I can make the same text as the background here, this light brown, dark brown. So I could have that, for example. That's one option. You could also just make it black. That's an option too. You could also make it white. That looks really nice as well. So if you've got a neutral background, not black and not white, you can use white or black as the text. The other options you can use as well is when I click on the text, I can go over to the plus button, this little text effects, and I can also do something like a shadow. There's all sorts of different options here that I could have. So I'd recommend that you really take a good hard look at what's available, because you can use different types of shadows and you can use different types of fades, and they often will look really good depending on the font. So I'm actually going to keep it like that. So that is a great looking piece of text. You can also then just change the text color to something really out there, something like that. Now I really like that green, so I'm going to click on Kitty here. So that's going to really make the color pop. The nice thing about Kittl is you can really monkey around with the different types of backgrounds, fonts. You can just play around. So I'm just kind of just moving my mouse around on the background going, which color really looks good? Oh, look at that. If I do like a dark red with this saturated cat, that's a really cool looking design. Okay, the last design, I'm going to just remove my kitty here, and I'm going to be talking about planets. It's very specific to fantasy designs. Now I'm making very simple fantasy element posters here, but you could obviously just add more elements in, and that would be fine too. So I'm going to click on planet, and I'm going to get back a lot of clip art. So you could use these if you wanted, but if you want to create a fantasy planet, I'd recommend you click on the Earth, make it really big, put them at the top, and then you could change the object colors if you wanted. So for example, you could make it quite neon-y. So there's a great example there. I'm going to change the background color now to black, and then I'm going to go here to elements, and I'm going to type in warrior. Actually, I'm going to move my text up. I'm going to move them up to here. I'm going to now just pick under elements just a basic shape. So I'm going to go to shapes. I'm going to pick on this thing here. I'm going to scroll way out. I'm going to make this quite a bit bigger, and I'm actually going to stretch them quite a bit there. And then I'm going to change my object color to something like a red, maybe a dark red. I'll put him in the back. You can see I've got a curved background that really helps make it look like he's standing on a planet. So there's my very, very simple fantasy poster here. I've got a ninja design, I've got some text, and then now I've made a planet at the top and a planet at the bottom. And again, you could add and you can mix and match these elements together. So I could add in more background, I could add in a sun in the background. So just as an example, elements, basic shapes, I could put in a star right behind this. I could make it, for example, very bright yellow, and I could just then move him to the back. So just like that, here I've got a little sun now sitting in behind. So there's all sorts of options. You can make sci-fi, you can make fantasy posters, and the beauty of this is everything is very changeable very quickly. So I hope you found this walkthrough helpful. There's lots of different elements inside of Kittl, and if you're interested in signing up for Kittl, I'll put a link in the video description below. I love using Kittl. Kittl not only has the elements library that we use today, but they've got a ton of different templates that you can use as well. I just want to point out that the link in the video description is an affiliate link. That just means if you click on it and you purchase something, I would receive a small commission. I'm a proud ambassador for Kittl. I use Kittl a lot, and I make sales using Kittl a lot. Highly recommend. Here's another video on how you can supercharge your print-on-demand journey using the powers of Kittl.